There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, kicking off another brand new hour live here from the shadow of Detroit, kicking off a brand new day, kicking off another day of freedom from the foxhole, fighting for you every day from the foxhole freedom, which is what we do every day. Lots of work to do. Let's get to it here. 3 big things you need to know for this hour. Number 1, the end of the government shutdown is at hand, but it will take some time for things to get rolling again normally, so be patient. It is working its way through the House now, and it'll be here soon enough. Number 2, affordability. That is the issue. It will almost certainly decide the midterm elections next year. It's what got President Trump elected, and people are demanding results, and they want them soon. They're getting angry. Number 3, this week the Democrat Party eating itself alive on live television. It's glorious. Senate Democrats just voted to end the government shutdown. Yes, the same shutdown they swore was a moral imperative to protect their sacred cow programs. And the radical left is having a Category 5 meltdown. They're not just mad, they're feral. They want this pain to drag on for months, maybe years, just to bleed Trump dry politically. But even some of their own moderates finally grew a spine and said enough. And now the long knives are out for Chuck Schumer everywhere. The pitchforks are being sharpened. Here's Congressman Ro Khanna. He represents Silicon Valley. He's a leftist. He's a socialist, listing all the grievances with the Senate Minority Leader. Listen.
This was the straw that broke the camel's back. You had Chuck Schumer cheerleading into the war in Iraq. You've had Chuck Schumer cheerleading for a blank check to Netanyahu. You've had Chuck Schumer betraying us on the first shutdown. You then had Chuck Schumer given multiple opportunities after Zoran won the primary to at least endorse him, even if it was a pro forma endorsement. He doesn't do that. And now he's not even willing to fight to make sure that the ACA subsidies don't increase. So to your earlier question about are there difficult questions on SNAP benefits and troop pay? Of course there are. And maybe if this was the only context, Chuck Schumer would have some grace and goodwill and say, okay, we disagree with this deal, but it's not enough to call for you to step down. But this is the culmination of someone who just doesn't get it, who doesn't get how much people are hurting, who doesn't get where the base of this party is, who doesn't get how upset this party has been that we're giving all this money to overseas wars and not doing health care here, who certainly is never going to support Medicare for all. He's just out of touch. He's not the future of the party.
Not the future of the party. Ro Khanna, Silicon Valley's favorite socialist in a $3,000 suit, just declared open season on the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and he's not alone. The Bernie bros are circling. Here's the senator from Vermont himself whipping up some support. Listen to this.
Schumer voted no, or is going to vote no, along with you. He did last night, and he's going to do it again. But a lot of Democrats are blaming him because he is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. And some of your allies, like Congressman Ro Khanna of California and others, are saying Schumer should step down from his position as Democratic leader in the Senate. Do you still have confidence in him as leader of the Senate?
Look, Schumer and I have very fundamental disagreements about where the Democratic Party should be. And I am strongly supporting candidates for the Senate who are not part of the Democratic establishment, who believe in Medicare for all, who are prepared to take on the big money interests and fight for working people. All right, I have a very different vision of where the Democratic Party should go. If Schumer steps down, who is going to take his place? The truth is, progressives in the Senate right now are I think there are about 8 or 9 of us. We are pretty much of a minority.
Yeah, there you go. I'm surprised he didn't have his mittens on. Guess you could say the gloves are off, for sure. Bernie Sanders wanted the shutdown to be a crucible, to forge the revolution in the fires of federal employee misery, but Chuck blinked. And now the left wants his head on a pike outside the Capitol for all to see. Bernie says he's in the minority, but that minority is starting to hold the rest of the party hostage. In fact, starting to hold the rest of America hostage. Hakeem Jeffries, Mr. I'll impeach Trump on Tuesday, wants to prevent being ripped apart by the radical left. So here he is vowing to keep the pain train rolling in the House. Listen.
America is too expensive. And far too many people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. They can't thrive. They can barely survive. And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear. We will sit down with any Republicans, anytime, any place, anywhere, in order to find a bipartisan path forward, but we're not down with their my way or the highway approach to governance. That's failed the American people. It's been a disaster for the American people, and the American people know it.
Democrats are trying to sell this as a fight for Americans. But newsflash, Americans not buying groceries at federal workers doing everything short of pawning their wedding rings. But Jeffries acts like he wanted to ride this shutdown like a mechanical bull all the way to 2026. Too bad the Senate just yanked the plug. He blames Republicans for the disastrous state of the healthcare industry, as if Obamacare isn't their invention and their invention solely. Not one Republican voted for it. Now for the meltdowns. Oh, the meltdowns. Here's this guy having a full-blown psychotic break from all of it. Roll it.
It is time to end the era of the feckless Democrat, too scared to unify the party and stand up to Donald Trump, to stand up to lawlessness, and in this case, to fight for Americans. And let's remember, what Republicans are doing is robbing millions of Americans of their health insurance. It is horrible what Republicans are doing. And it is equally bad that Democrats have lost their spine in standing up to it. But this is the moment when we recognize that is the old Democratic Party. And it is time to make way for the new Democrats who are born of courage and battle for the American people, not for bowing down out of fear.
Yeah. Democrats out there are close to breaking Donald Trump. Breaking him? Sir, the only thing breaking is your grip on reality. Trump was busy cutting deals with world leaders while you were rage tweeting in your pajamas. Fact. In fact, on the View, Sunny Hostin doing the same thing on national television, melting down. Here she is.
I want an opposition party. I think the Democrats caved. I think the Democrats let down the American people. And like you, Whoopi, I have absolutely no faith that the Republican Party will come to the negotiating table in good faith. You know, you do something like this, shame on you the first time. You do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, shame on me. Shame on the Democrats. Bottom line is the Democrats went into this after a blue wave out of the American people saying we do want the opposition. We the working people want the Democratic Party to fight for them. And now they just caved and surrendered. I think Chuck Schumer, his days are over. If he cannot keep his caucus together, he needs to go. He needs to be replaced.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. Look, the Democrats are being smashed on the rocks of an angry ocean of people, but the Democrats, they're not going to be alone if Republicans don't wake up and see the warning signs. Sit tight. I'll be right back. All right, I'll say this. Look, the people are angry. The Democrats are angry. The infighting is going on pretty clear. And it's pretty sad when they say standing on principle means letting 800,000 federal workers go without paychecks for a month, while AOC and Bernie collect their paychecks without pause, all for trillions in funding for what amounts to a healthcare scam, as far as I'm concerned. Look, Obamacare failed. It failed by design. Democrats love to talk about the American people while conveniently forgetting that it was the American people who voted for Donald Trump in office and are behind his agenda. Not the agenda of the party that consistently takes the wrong side of 80-20 issues, but the real gut punch for the left came from two of their own, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania and Dick Durbin of Illinois. First, the man in the hoodie. Here he is.
It really wasn't difficult for me personally compared to the 42 million Americans now that they had their SNAP suspended. And then the military not getting paid. All these government workers now that are sitting at the desk right there in the Senate chambers. They haven't been paid in 5 weeks. And now the Capitol Police and all the air traffic controllers, they haven't been paid. And that's made flying less safe. So for me, that's been incredibly difficult for all of those folks and this kinds of chaos. So for me, you know, this was the 16th time tonight to vote to keep our government open. And that's just, I see doing my job, and it's the country over the party on this. And I know there's many people in my caucus are upset that we decided that, hey, I think it's wrong. It's always wrong for me. And that's where I am. And after 41 days, I think we can agree that it wasn't worth the kinds of chaos and trauma for our nation.
It was not worth the kind of chaos for the nation. Strange that maybe one of the only sane Democrats these days, the one who was targeted, by me included, by the way, the guy who had a stroke while running for the United States Senate. Shouldn't take a brain injury to admit the obvious. Fetterman might look like he just rolled out of bed, but he actually said the quiet part out loud. This was hurting real people, real Americans. Air traffic controllers sleeping in terminals. TSA lines snaking out the door. Veterans waiting on paychecks. But the squad, maybe should be renamed the firing squad, and the Socialist Caucus didn't care. They were too busy drafting their Medicare for All and also Your Dog manifesto. Dick Durbin, the elder statesman of the Senate, number 2 in power, admits that Democrats knew the shutdown would starve kids, but did it anyway to protest Donald Trump. He admits it. Listen.
Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mm-hmm. Durbin's been in Washington since the invention of the fax machine. Even he couldn't stomach the carnage. The moderates peeling off, the radicals screaming traitor. And Schumer, right now, I think he's probably hiding under his desk. I'll say it now. I'll predict it now. These moderates are getting primary next year. Now, Durbin, he resigned. He's gone. He's not running again. He doesn't care. Same for Gene Shaheen in New Hampshire, one of the 8. The other 6 are all going to get targeted for being reasonable after more than 40 days of insanity. But here's the kicker. The part the media won't play out loop. President Trump didn't just survive this shutdown. He used it. Listen to this.
Honestly, can I put it in plain words for you? And you're a smart guy, so you all understand, but a lot of people don't. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown because we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being, and they're never going to come back in many cases. So we're being able to do things that we were unable to do before.
Able to do things that they were not able to do before. So while they were shutting down the government, the administration was shutting down their ridiculous programs. No more funding for DEI czars. No more billion-dollar slush funds for sanctuary cities. That's called draining the swamp, one furloughed bureaucrat at a time. Trump turned their tantrum into a scalpel, carving out the rot they've been feeding for decades, and the left knows it. And that's why they're not just mad at Schumer, they're terrified because the moderates are waking up. The base is fracturing, and the American people, they're done being pawns in this circus. The Democrat Party isn't a big tent anymore. It's a cage fight. You've got the AOC Bernie wing demanding purity tests and prolonged suffering, and the non-socialist remnant begging for a truce. Schumer's caught in the middle, trying to thread a needle with a sledgehammer. And Jeffries, he's still in the House vying to continue the fight for health care for illegals. This isn't leadership. This is cannibalism. The left wanted to hold 330 million Americans hostage to spite one man, but even their own couldn't stomach the ransom note. And Trump, he's already signing the executive orders. Friends, this is what winning looks like. Not with a bang, but with a whimper from the other side. The shutdown is coming to a close, and the Democrat Party is tearing itself apart on camera at the seams. Grab your popcorn because, well, the show's just getting started. But Republicans, do not rest on your laurels. Gen Z is fleeing you because the word is still affordability. We will address that in detail tomorrow. You don't want to miss that. Republicans, don't celebrate too early or too long. All right, there's your monologue for today. Meanwhile, fall is here. It means it's flannel season. Look, we got good news here. It's flannel season. Muskox, the undisputed leader in heavyweight flannels, has you covered. My absolute favorite shirt. I wore it in the deer blind last night. Their brand new heavyweight flannels are on the way. Already rated the best flannel by Gear Junkie since 2023. These aren't your average shirts. Muskox flannels are crafted with the softest, double-brushed, 100% cotton. Feels as good as it looks. Plus, every time you buy, they give back to conservation. So step up your fall wardrobe and get comfortable. Go muskox.com/Gruber or use the promo code Gruber to save $15. Look, they're not inexpensive, but they will last you a lifetime. In fact, you'll probably hand it off to your kids and grandkids. Go muskox.com/Gruber. Grab yours today. I'll be right back. You won't see this very often, but you're going to see it today because I give credit where credit is due. This is an honest program, and I try to be as honest as possible. And I have to be honest, I was pretty impressed by something I saw here yesterday. It came from Veterans Day, and it involves Barack Obama. He boarded an honor flight full of veterans from Wisconsin to D.C. The former president, Barack Obama, on an honor flight with veterans. I want you to see this. Here it is.
Approach Veterans Day, I wanted to stop by and just say thank you for your extraordinary service. To you, your family, the sacrifices that all of you made to protect our country is something that will always be honored. And we are very grateful, and we also happen to welcome you with a 70-degree day in D.C., which doesn't always happen around here.
That's the first time I've seen a president, former or current, greet an honor flight, and that is absolutely amazing. A commander-in-chief, a leader who's going to show up and tell you that your service was worth something. I think that's the important part, so I think it was a great thing that happened.
Look, I give credit where credit is due on Veterans Day. Good for Barack Obama for doing that, for thanking veterans. I don't agree with Barack Obama on much, but that had some class, my friends. It did. I wish he would go away and fade into the distance like most presidents. He won't. He's here. And that's the sort of thing that can get people, get their attention so that, Well, so that they can come over to the Democrat Party as fractured as it is. Be warned, my friends, don't celebrate too long because we're a long way from being done. If you're feeling bloated after meals or if you're just low on energy, just feel lethargic, I've got something for you today. Victory Nutrition International has you covered with the Gut Health Bundle featuring Enzorb and Trim Rocks. Enzorb adds digestive enzymes to help you break down the food efficiently so you can enjoy less bloat and more of your day. Then boost your metabolism and energy the fun way with Trim Rocks, a fizzy, plant-powered tablet that supports fat-burning, balanced blood sugar, and steady energy. Right now, get special bundle prices as well as a buy one, get one free. Find out more. These are the vitamins that Ivy did the research on and we looked at, we take every day. VNI.life/Gruber. Now through November the 15th, you've got a special. Victory Nutrition International. Nutrition that gets in. Again, the place to go. VNI.life/Gruber. Or use that QR code right on your screen. Click it, and you're going to be glad you did. We'll take a break and be right back. Continue the conversation now. Several things happening with this administration, as you know. Energy policy, incredibly important to Donald Trump and this administration to make America not just energy independent, but dominant in the world. And another place is with minerals, rare earth minerals, plus copper and silver and other things that are going to be greatly important in the years to come. Drew Horn joins me. He's the CEO of Green Met and a former Trump administration official. Drew, nice to see you today.
Thanks so much for having me.
We don't talk as much about mineral deposits, but I remember back during the Biden administration, there were some rare earth elements that were found in northern Minnesota, and the Biden administration almost immediately sealed it off, said absolutely not, you can't mine them, you can't do anything, just closed it off. Look, America has the greatest natural resources in the world, be it timber, farmland, water, rare earth elements. We've got it all, plus oil and gas. But there's been this movement to basically keep it in the ground. We've got to stop thinking that way, don't we?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the reality is the United States has all the materials it can want and to be a net exporter to the world when it comes to critical minerals and resources. It's insane that we wouldn't use it. It's been, just a complete failure in the past to not realize it. We saw it at its height during the Biden administration. Obviously, when I had the privilege of, working for the president, leading this topic during the first administration, we tried to make as much headway and progress as we could. I think he's really completing the job with his team now, and I think you're going to see a lot of things return to sanity, if you will.
Yeah, there's this big mine that they're opening in Alaska. Now, there are partners, I believe, from Australia and Canada in addition to the United States. They're punching through a 200-mile road to make sure we have access to these minerals. This is something that's been in the headlines a little bit. But again, it doesn't get enough attention. The amount of copper we're going to need for AI and for the new wave of high tech, that in of itself is remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, AI, Bitcoin, all of the, kind of trendy new big pushes that are, building a massive new series of markets in this area. They all need these resources in excess. And we have them ourselves. We need to be able to provide them ourselves. We need to have a secure supply chain where we don't have an adversary like China, choking us out every time, we try and make a move forward without them. There's a common sense approach here. I think President Trump is, like I said, leading the charge on that, but you've got a lot of companies coming in behind it. And it's a U.S., Canadian, Australian story with the U.S. at the forefront, the U.S. leading it. And that's what you're seeing unveil itself with this project and others now.
So when you look out there across the horizon of these minerals, Drew, and those are the three countries that seem to be involved as much as anyone and key partners of ours, despite, arguments over tariffs and so forth, they're still key partners as we move forward. What is the need? What are the things that you see that we need the most of, that are the most acute?
Well, so obviously the heavy rare earths are most in need. They're in everything from your cell phone to space travel equipment and aircraft, everything you can possibly imagine. Those are obvious. So you got like dysprosium and terbium. Those are our primary top targets. You've also got materials like gallium, germanium, tungsten, antimony. All of those are essential, not just for big tech, but for national security needs. We've got a big story where we secured an investment or a commitment from the Export-Import Bank of the United States for our partners, Loxley, who does big antimony out west in the United States, out in the Mojave. Like that's needed for everything you could possibly imagine. Like I said, from household electronics, everything for the supply chain for AI, and also so that we can just defend ourselves against China, Russia, and others that mean us harm.
How important is it at this point in the conversation to make sure these things are codified, to make sure that if there's a change in 2026 or 28, that we have put in place the building blocks for, like I said, energy security, mineral security, American security, because they all kind of are intertwined, right? What do we need to do to make sure that we're protected from the Green New Dealers, if you will?
Well, we need to codify in Congress everything that the administration is moving forward with right now. We tried to do that last time. We ran out of time for various reasons I won't, get into on this particular call. But we have everything going this time around. And I think, the president and his top advisors understand the way forward here. I think that allies on the Hill do as well. And so I think they're working to actively codify that into legislation. We're in the midst of a sprint right now. We've got essentially until the midterms to lock in as much tangible progress as possible. That's what we refer to as Trump speed. It's a real thing, and it's moving faster than warp speed. So we need to make sure that we have a whole of government and whole of industry alignment in getting these things tangibly tied up, underway, and producing as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So when you look at this investment, $190 million, that's just one, of course. Letter of interest is what they put together, the Export-Import Bank of the United States, EXIM as it's called. That's just one step. Looking 5 years or 10 years down the road, it gets much more important. We're behind in many ways, to China, to others around the world that are competing with us. How far behind are we? How critical is it?
Well, not to use a pun, but the critical minerals critical issue is extremely critical. We need to find a way to take the lead on this. It's in the world's interest, not just our own. But I think what's not understood is how close we can be with the amount of resources being applied right now. We've got multiple billion-dollar private equity groups and funds and institutions coming into this, investing heavily. The large banks, the large defense and automotive institutions are investing heavily in sourcing, understanding they need this. So are the AI companies. So we have all the resources we need. We have the right president who's looking, to fast track permitting and common sense reform. Honestly, within a year's time, we can correct a lot of this as long as we have a whole of government and whole of industry focus on this, and we continue to work in close coordination like we are now.
In 1 year, we can turn this around in 1 year. I mean, that if we can do it in 1 year, and nothing in government works that fast, but Drew, if we can get there, we can correct a lot of years of bad policy, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, it literally takes an all hands on deck effort, right? We're talking about a situation similar to when the United States responded during World War II, where, in a year's time, we were able to turn everything on and essentially help the entire world, from an ally perspective, win that war. We can do the same thing economically right now with minerals, materials, metals. All of those things are just as crucial, and the free world is at stake. And so I think everyone that needs to is aware of that. We're all working very closely together. There's enormous economic upside for investors and others that are looking at it from just a solely business perspective. So it's a good story. And I think you're seeing everyone engage in that collective sprint together the way we need to win.
Yeah, and when I see bad policies, and I want to get to this before I let you go, Drew, and that says, I see that Ford is going to discontinue the Lightning pickup truck. Another example of policies pushing towards something that was never going to work. If your business plan is government subsidies, that's no business plan at all. That's my opinion. But you look at the failure of EVs for General Motors, for Ford, for others, it was never going to work that way. But we do need it for other things. And then I look at, there's some charts you can look at every day, the amount of power being produced by wind and solar on the East Coast of the United States. It runs less than 3%, sometimes less than 1% of all the power being generated. These are all things that are interconnected. I'll give you the last word on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You can't have fake businesses and scams being propped up by government subsidies that they never should have gotten, right? Obviously, there's a history with previous administrations with, projects.
There is, yeah. I mean, it
never
should have been done. Never should have been done. I got to
leave
leave
it
it right there for today. I got to leave it right there for today. It is real, and you're doing something about it. And so I tip my hat to you, Drew. I really appreciate you being here. You come back anytime because these are critical conversations.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, and have a good day.
We'll take a break and be right back on The Steve Gruber Show. Well, we've talked a little bit over the last few days about this big blast of cold weather. It gets people to think about, well, it's cold and flu season. I know some people that have already come down with it, right? You probably do too. In the UK, they're warning it could be the worst in decades. Health officials in North Carolina reported 4 flu deaths already. The answer from the medical establishment, predictably, more people need to get the flu vaccine. But is that true? We talk about it. It's always a hot topic. Join me now, Peter Galuli, the CEO of the wellness company. Peter, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
It's always get a vaccine, more vaccines. I have not gotten a flu vaccine in years, to be honest with you. The question is simply this: does it work?
It's a great question that everyone asks, Steve, and you can actually go to the CDC website yourself and look at the data. So what people need to understand about the flu vaccine is this. Every spring, the CDC guesses effectively on what the dominant strains of influenza are going to be in the fall. And it's a very hit or miss process. At a good year, they're maybe 60% correct. And you can see over the past 20 years of data that the CDC displays, the flu shot is at best moderately effective in identifying what strains of influenza are going to be going around in the fall. The second question that we have to ask is, okay, if they guess right, which we know isn't always the case, does it actually work? And this is where the science gets a little dark. So there have been studies that have come out and, they've been repressed, and I know Dr. McCullough and others have covered them, but there's actually many cases now where we're seeing that the flu vaccine actually has negative effectiveness. So meaning that you actually get more sick if you have a vaccine. And there's a number of different drivers of this. Most of them are physiological that rely on the patient, but it begs the question, why do we keep doing something that just doesn't show a lot of effectiveness when there's far more safer ways to stay healthy during flu season?
Sure, if the efficacy is suspect, which it is and has been, look, this isn't something we learned during COVID. The flu vaccine was suspect to me years before we ever went through that whole ordeal. So the real question comes down to, okay, what can people really do to keep themselves healthy during cold and flu season? There are things that can be done, right?
Absolutely. And it starts at home, right? Getting sleep, good hygiene, the things that our moms used to tell us all the time when we were kids, Steve, those do help prevent influenza. Other things that you can do is use something like a nasal spray or mouthwash. Hygiene in the sinuses is extremely important. We've been talking about this for a while now at the Wellness Company. We brush our teeth every day. Why don't we clean our sinuses? We created a nasal spray that actually uses xylitol and some other very safe and non-painful ingredients that actually flush the sinuses of bacteria and viruses. And if you do that every day, that really disrupts the incubation period, because colds and flus, they start in the sinus cavities. That's where they incubate, that's where they reproduce, and then they spread to the rest of the body. And by that point, you get quite sick.
Right, and this is something I was not fully aware of this until we did go through COVID, all of us together collectively. But your nasal passages up here is a reservoir where that virus can replicate. It's like a place where it can make other virus, and it replicates and can continue your sickness longer than it should, right?
Yeah, look, it's the entrance to the body for most of these diseases, and it does turn into a petri dish, especially this time of year. So we really try to urge people to do what they can to flush out those sinuses. Look, even if it's just a simple wash with salt water, that helps. Do that periodically during flu season, and you're much less likely to get sick.
Absolutely true. And again, we'll get back to those nasal sprays in a minute, because we started using those from TWC a while back. Here I am. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I guess it's working for me. Now, I want to move on to another topic for a moment, because conservatives and libertarians are very disappointed with the elections in New Jersey, New York, and Virginia. Some would call it a disaster on the right. We know that during the pandemic, Democrat governors restricted access to safe and affordable off-use drugs like ivermectin. I've told this story before. I was very sick with COVID. My doctor and I argued back and forth on the phone, got kind of heated. She called me back, said, fine, I'll place the prescription, but you got to drive an hour and a half. I said, fine. I did it. I took it mid-morning that day. By the time it was sunsetting, I was in good shape again. I was a different human being. Ivermectin changed the trajectory of my illness. Are you concerned that this new wave of ultra-liberal governors could once again limit access to these affordable, effective drugs?
Absolutely. Even I know we're winding down the government shutdown, hopefully this week, but we really need to remember that the Democrats' core pillar of healthcare policy has been government control. throwing more money at the problem. And what do we have to show for it? Well, we have ballooning healthcare costs and worse health outcomes. And we saw during the pandemic that using this heavy handed government centralized response doesn't work. And they were intentionally suppressing very safe and effective and, most importantly, cheap medications like ivermectin that show a tremendous amount of efficacy for these diseases. And I think, to your experience, the earlier you take them in the course of sickness, the shorter the course of the disease will be and the better you'll feel immediately. And
Yeah.
if we're just waiting for check into a hospital, which really is the liberal response to medication or to disease, go to the hospital. That's usually at the point where you're so sick that you're going to be there for a long period of time.
Yeah, we don't want that. And the second thing is the ivermectin you can get from the wellness company is American made, and I like that too. So two things: the nasal spray to combat that reservoir of virus, and ivermectin. These are things that should be on your shelf. And by the way, while I'm talking about this, you got these great emergency kits that you can pick up at the wellness company with all sorts of great medications, an instruction book on how to use everything in here. Don't get caught short, right?
Absolutely. Preparedness is the best response for sickness. I mean, we all keep, water and extra cash on hand. Why wouldn't you have medication? I think you'll use it far more often than those other preparedness items in your household, and you'll be better off for it.
Absolutely true. Peter Gluley, always appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And right now, you can find out more at twc.health/Gruber. Look, all of these are available there, plus so much more. The Wellness Company has been my partner in good health for quite some time. These emergency kits, look, they're perfect. They put them on your shelf. You don't get caught short. You've got antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, all right here, plus several other great kits. A first aid kit, a travel kit, a kit for kids. All of this can be found at twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%, and you're going to feel good. You're going to feel good doing it. I'll take a break. I'll be right back. Here's your government shutdown update that you need for this Wednesday. Democrats still want the shutdown to continue. That's not subjective, that's empirical fact. The House will vote on reopening the federal government today after lawmakers' funding bill survived a key hurdle in the wee hours earlier today. The bipartisan deal to end the 42-day government shutdown advanced through the House Rules Committee overnight. All Republicans voting in favor, all Democrats against. Apparently, the Democrats want this 42-day shutdown to drag on further. It now moves to the full House for consideration, where multiple people familiar with Republican leaders' conversations say they believe it will pass with nearly all Republicans on board and nearly all Democrats opposed. The Democrats will cross the aisle will be the ones that are in tight races next year. It's a meaningful step, of course, passing through the House Rules Committee. So maybe we can get this done. The bill to advance lasts more than 6 hours, ending shortly after 1 o'clock Eastern today. So there you go. Another story I want to bring to your attention is this. A Republican candidate for governor in Michigan is holding a march, a rally in Dearborn. Anthony Hudson is in the race to be Michigan's next governor. He has publicly vowed to expose Dearborn for what it is and plans to hold a march in the city November the 18th. I believe that is next Tuesday. We have a constitutional right to assemble, Hudson said after the Republican Party hosted a debate in Macomb County. We're not going to block streets. We're not going to be screaming religious comments to people. We're simply going to walk showing people that we're not afraid to go into any town or any community in the state. And two, we're trying to bring people together. We'll be covering this for you here. Michigan news source, My Company, will be there in person on November the 18th. Tell you what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan, a place that some people are very concerned about Sharia law. Calls to prayer blasting on loudspeakers 5 times a day across the city despite noise ordinances. We'll have it covered right here. No question about it. We got 2 more big hours, so don't go anywhere. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board. Always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is. Welcome to another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. I mean, the world seems to be a crazy place. You need to know who's going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with you when it really matters most. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, ICE has captured a violent illegal alien that whipped a woman with an electric cord before throwing her off a building. Joe Biden let this convicted killer stay in America. We have to do better. Number two, Republicans say they will have a health care plan for everyone to see by December. I hope that's true. Could be a real game changer and put the free market back in play and make affordability front and center. And number three, speaking of affordability, that is the issue that will almost certainly decide the midterm elections next year. I mentioned it off the top today. It got President Trump elected. People are demanding results. The fact of the matter is it also got Zoran elected. It's an issue that drives voters of all backgrounds. So let's dig a bit deeper, because here's the truth, my friends. Gen Z voters that powered Donald Trump to the White House, their support for him, according to Mark Mitchell Rasmussen, has dropped from the mid-50s to 35%. They don't care who fixes the problem of rent, inflation, wages, job opportunities, the chance to buy a house. They don't care who solves it, and that's dangerous. Then you end up with radical leaders like Mamdani, who I think will be of no help to New York City. In fact, I'm certain of it. And here's the problem. People on high keep saying, well, things are fine, things are fine. To those that are voting, to those between 18 and 30 for sure, they don't see it. They still have roommates at the age of 30 because they can't pay the rent. That's a problem. Home ownership doesn't happen until people are in their late 30s now in America. Not okay. 50-year mortgages, not the answer, I don't think. But meanwhile, Secretary Scott Bessent says the economy is improving. Here's what he says.
What we're not going to do is what happened under the Biden administration, where the administration and the media gaslit everyone and said, oh, there's a vibe session. You don't understand how good you have it. And what happened then was we had the worst inflation 40 or 50 years, 22, 23%. But the basket of goods and services for working Americans was up more than 30%. And what we're seeing is we had to stop the increase first. Now we are starting to see prices level off, come down. Gas interest rates are down, so mortgages are down, and I think we are making substantial progress on that. And I think over the coming months and the next year, prices are going to come down.
Yeah, well, over the next year. A year from now, we'll be through the midterm elections, Secretary Bessent. I don't know if we're in good shape by then. The question of affordability, that is front and center. Economic issues drive elections, and they will drive people to make radical decisions, as we saw in New York City and elsewhere. It's what drove people to vote for Donald Trump. They just want somebody to fix it. Fix it. It can come from the right. It can come from the left. They don't care. They want it fixed. Here's the question of affordability with the Secretary. Listen.
We inherited an affordability crisis. We have slowed the price increases down, and they are going to continue to slow down, and that real working class wages will go up, and that will address the affordability issue. And, I think this is what Democrats are afraid to do. They've gone to the courts to try to stop President Trump and this great economy. That hasn't worked. They get overruled at SCOTUS. We go to the media, who carries their water. That hasn't worked, so they shut down the government and hurt the economy. Let's keep the economy open, let our policies kick in, and let's see if what I just talked about, let's see if those two lines cross. Costs come down, real wages go up, and then we can have an election next November.
Yeah, next November. Kevin Hassett, He's the Council of Economic Advisors director. He says there are ideas to help Americans with affordability. One of those ideas, of course, is to turn over your health care money not to the insurance companies, but to the American people with health savings accounts. I think that is a great idea that needs conversation. I think it'll have bipartisan support. Look, if Americans can force the insurance companies to compete for your business instead of just being rewarded with government subsidies, it changes the landscape. Insurance companies have been having record profits for years now, not because they've earned them, but because they're directed by government mandates and subsidies. It's time to fix that. It's time to make insurance companies compete for your business again. All right? And how about the idea of a $2,000 check to American taxpayers, each one, to Americans? How about that for an idea? Listen.
What's more likely, a $2,000 tariff rebate check or a 50-year mortgage?
Well, you know, I think that they're both really good ideas. The fact is that we've got a big reduction in the deficit. And the interesting thing is that it's not just because of tariff revenue. We've had a big positive shock to income taxes as well because people's incomes are so much higher. And so back in the summer when we were saying that for now, let's think of the tariff revenue as something that reduces the deficit, there's more room even for deficit hawks to think about rebate checks like the president talked about because we've actually done such a good job cutting spending. And the supply side effects, the Laffer curve effects of the tax cuts have actually made revenues go up. We're up about $200 billion relative to last year in revenue as well. So it makes room for it. And in terms of the 50-year mortgage, the bottom line is that it would reduce the monthly payment. We've got a real problem in America that too few people are getting that first home. And the age of first-time home buyers has gone up by about 10 years over just the last few. And so President Trump is really focused like a laser beam on trying to come up with something that addresses that.
Yeah, there you go. Meanwhile, Congressman Tim Burchett, we just talked about this health care thing. I want to bring it back to that, all right? He says it's time to move forward on cutting health care costs with President Trump's idea. I think it's a smart idea that is worth conversation in here as part of that conversation.
You know, it seems kind of crazy, but in the future, maybe we ought to bring the patients and the doctors to the table and tell the insurance companies they can go take a flying leap because they've screwed this program up by their greed and the politicians' greed who are getting funded in their campaigns by them. That's what needs to happen, ma'am. And we've got plans out there that'll work, I believe, if we could just get them to the table. I think we've had enough hearings. I think we need to just start bringing stuff to the table and start voting on it. That's what America elected us to do. And I think both parties would have to suck it up a little bit. I think
Right.
Everybody talks real tough on this issue, ma'am, but nobody wants to do anything about it. In reality, the leadership's afraid of it. They want to kick that can down the road, but the American public is suffering in both parties. Poor folks, black folks, white folks, everybody's suffering under this system, and we can do a whole lot better.
And we can do a whole lot better. That's a fact. Is it the solution? I think it might be. Health savings accounts that can only be used for insurance premiums, prescription medications, doctor's visits, whatever. That's what it's for, nothing else. Boy, the insurance companies will be scrambling for your money. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. All right, continuing now. Live from Brazil, our next guest is at the CFACT Climate Conference, where the UN has learned nothing, apparently. I keep looking at these graphs of how much energy is being produced on the eastern seaboard from windmills and solar panels. It's always less than 2%. Sometimes it's less than 1%. Craig Rucker is the co-founder and president of CFACT. He joins me live from Brazil. Craig, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me on the program, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Weather looks a little bit better there today than it does here. I'll tell you that, so that's a good start. All right, let's talk about this. The United Nations learning nothing about climate change, and everything else. We've just had the coldest weather in 35 years for this part of November in North America. What's the conference? You're at this climate conference. Tell the folks what's happening.
Sure. Well, the UN has had these conferences going back to the 90s. Shortly after Rio Earth Summit in 92, George H. Bush signed us onto a voluntary climate agreement. As part of that process, every year they have different meetings around the world. They never take places like Toledo, Ohio, or Jackson, Mississippi. They always tend to take very exotic places like Paris and Kyoto, and this year in the rainforest in Belém. It's the 30th gathering. I've been to 27 of them, and it's very ill-equipped to handle 50,000 climate delegates from around the world. In fact, so much so that prior to the conference, because there wasn't enough hotel space and room for private jet travel, that the government of Brazil under Lulu actually started clear-cutting the forest and built about a 14 kilometer road in the jungle that we've actually been to in order to make a highway through the forest to get the environmental delegates to be closer to the nature. So right now they're in negotiations.
So, I just want that to marinate for a moment here. They're clear cutting, and they've got, bulldozers out there, and they're clearing airstrips and cutting trees in the rainforest. How does the rainforest look, by the way, as you look out? I can see all the trees behind you there. How are things in Brazil?
We've been there. We were there yesterday and took a tour, along with several of the UN other delegates and that. And I think you got to put it in context. What happens is that this is a big conference on climate, but with the left, they believe that racial, social justice, indigenous peoples need to be touted here. So they're really emphasizing that, culminating with a kind of a people's march on Saturday here. However, their message is kind of undermined by the locals. Case in point, yesterday we go on a tour, and I'm talking to the guide and some of the people, and they tell me they like the development. They like the COP coming in here, the COP meeting, because of all the jobs, restaurants, hotel fares, capitalism that it brings. And the rainforest, needs to be cleared for the farmers, ranchers, mining, and for development in an otherwise crowded cities here, which is kind of the opposite message that you're hearing at the UN conference, which is kind of the noble savage message, which, the primitives like dancing around in the forest at one with nature, away from our iPhone culture and things of that sort. So we find out actually rainforest is doing fine. It's still something to sweat over. We got a chance to put tarantulas on ourselves and paint our faces with the berries that natives do. It was kind of fun, but that's
so here's the thing. I always love how people like John Kerry and Al Gore and all the others, they talk about living off the land and returning to nature. Living off the land does not come with toilets. It doesn't come with private jets. It doesn't come with Kobe beef. It doesn't come with caviar. They are the most dishonest group of people in the world. Hey, we have to fly in on private jets because we're really busy, but you need to live in a lean-to in the forest. I mean, come on.
Oh, you're exactly right. And that's one of the things I'm going to be going today. They have a kind of a side conference going on because the main conference is really concerned about two things. One is what they call these national plans that countries are supposed to put in to get to net zero by the year 2050. They got to be approved by the UN. If you're a poor country, it just means plant a few trees and get Western cash. But if you're the United States or Western country, you got to transfix your entire energy grid to solar and wind. You got to go all electric vehicle. Ban red meat. They got all sorts of an agenda for the Western world. But mostly, and point number two is to give loads of money to the developing nations. They want to get about $1.3 trillion every single year starting in 2035. They have a more modest approach right now. They want to kind of glean about $300 billion from the West on annual. This would be largely transfer payments coming from U.S. taxpayers, but also other countries, directly to the UN, which would then probably shave off a good amount and give to the developing countries. So this is what's really being discussed right now and what they're in. Of course, the U.S. has boycotted it. Their envoy, they claim, is now Gavin Newsom, or at least he self-appointed himself that. We like to say we're the unofficial delegates for the Trump administration here. We even had Trump actually tweet or put on his social media a post of us being here when one of our people, Mark Morano, was on Fox News the other day. So we think we're the unofficial delegates representing the Trump administration.
Representing sanity. Representing sanity. Look, the rainforest, there is less deforestation today in the world than there was 25 or 50 years ago. That's just simple truth and fact and math. Craig, I'll give you the last word here. How long are you going to be there? What do you think you're going to find out? Is it just more of the same?
Yeah, we're going to be here through the weekend. We have another crew from CFAC coming to cover next week. It's a 2-week conference. I would think Americans should be very comforted by the fact that our U.S. delegation is not here. We're not participating. Trump got out of the Paris Accords. It's really just a big money grab. This is not actually going to impact the weather. You had Gutierrez, for example, saying that if we don't dole out enough money, the temperature may go up above 2 degrees Celsius in 100 years. I mean, this is nonsense. So we should sleep comfortably knowing the U.S. is boycotting this.
Yeah, I'm just worried as to the amount of red meat that will be consumed at this conference in 2 weeks' time. How many cows had to give their lives for this conference, Craig? That's what I want to know. Craig Rucker, co-founder, president of CFAC. Thank you for joining us from Brazil today.
Thank you.
Yeah, how many cows died to feed these climate zealots? How much caviar was harvested? How many trees were bulldozed? Disingenuous and dishonest. That's what that is. I'll take a break and be right back. This will come as little or no surprise, by the way. Little or no surprise. Parents' Right Group is warning that the teachers' unions in this country are indoctrinating kids. Yeah, that's not exactly news, but the American Parents Coalition released warnings targeting AFT and the NEA, the two biggest teachers' unions. They're sending a lookout warning to parents, urging vigilance against two of the top teachers' unions in the United States, making the case that they are prioritizing radical agendas at the expense of educational outcomes. Well, thankfully, pronouns are no longer necessary in Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, or Tennessee. That's the Sixth Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals that ruled last week. Pronouns, you can't force people to use pronouns because somebody says, you have to call me this or that or anything else. No, we don't. And teachers' unions were created to support educators and improve classroom instruction. Instead, they have transformed into radical political organizations that exploit their influence to push far-left ideology instead of prioritizing student academic success. Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's a warning. It's not news, but sometimes you have to reiterate these things so you have an idea of what we're up against.
I got something for you, Steve.
Go ahead.
I saw a post somebody posted on Reddit, a trans substitute teacher, so it's really a male pretending to be a girl.
Yeah.
And they were asking other people on Reddit if it was normal for them to get quote unquote euphoria erections when their students properly gender them.
No.
So he
no.
gets this
That's
guy,
not normal at all.
This guy pretending to be a girl gets an erection when the students call them Miss or Mrs.
And we allow this person in front of a classroom of impressionable young kids.
Yeah, children.
You want to be a dad someday. How would you feel about that?
I feel like that'd make me want to homeschool my kids.
Yeah, immediately. And if you go back just a few years, Anthony didn't feel that way. He was kind of left of center, got some left of center friends. But when you're presented with facts and all of a sudden you want to be a parent or have a job, things change, don't they, Anthony?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first back then it was just the gay and lesbian stuff.
Which whatever, right? I got gay and lesbian friends that are angry, by the way, about all the trans stuff. So this is not what we fought for. The conversations continue in a moment. We'll be right back. Things that I look at consistently are the price of gasoline around the country. $2.61, I think, is the low price in Virginia. I paid $3.10 here. I think it was yesterday. $3.10 for mid-grade, actually, which was not bad. The average price of gas today is the same as it was yesterday and a week ago, and a penny less than it was a month ago, and exactly where it was a year ago. So gas is pretty well leveled off, which is interesting considering that oil prices continue to be low, $60 to $65 a barrel, whether it's West Texas Intermediate or Brent crude. Joining me now, R.T. Trevino, oil and gas expert. He runs Pecos Country Energy, a privately owned oil and gas exploration production company in Fort Worth, Texas. R.T., welcome back to the program.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So here's the question. It seems that we're finally getting this government shutdown. It takes time, a bit of a process here, as we know, to reopen government, as it were. But it looks like the House is going to vote a little bit later today, and the process will be completed, and then the process of reopening government will get going again, which means oil and gas leases, among other things, will be reopened. Government opportunities will be reopened. What's it going to do to the price of gas, to the price of oil, do you think?
Well, right now we have such a supply of gasoline and oil here in America that we do expect for prices to continue to be at these $60 prices. Just yesterday, I was at the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers annual meeting and had a great opportunity not only to listen to Carr Ingham, who's their president, but also Kathy with the IPAA, and also our Congressman Craig Goldman. And all of them are also expecting prices to stay where they're at, but also Congressman Goldman, who's part of the Energy Committee in the House, is also expecting that these new leases that President Trump is opening up in the Gulf of America and in Cook's Inlet in Alaska are also going to only continue to add to the annual production here in America.
So the question then becomes, President Trump he did it again yesterday, said we're going to soon see $2 gasoline. I'm not hearing that from you. If oil is going to remain consistent, 60, 65, we're kind of at a place where it's settled in here. And look, I congratulate the states in the South, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and others, whose gas prices are at $2.60 on average. So some places probably $2.50, $2.49. Look, that's a pretty good price for gasoline. I mean, that's where it's been historically. It's down low again. Cheap energy runs this country, but are we really going to see $2 gas?
Well, here in Texas already, we are at $2.35 a gallon, like you just mentioned. And then on Monday, I was in Arizona where it's $4 a gallon. And that's because of those needless taxes that are added on every year in states like California and Arizona, where they just want to continue to tax with environmental taxes, if you will. So what we do expect is for the prices to stay here around this $60, maybe even go into the 50s. We wouldn't be surprised if we hit 55 again at the event that I was at yesterday. We are prepared to continue where we are right now. And as we do have the supply, we're not going to continue to slow down production. We are at almost 14 million barrels of oil a day here in America. And with OPEC continuing to add oil to the market as well. And we expect these Gulf of America projects to come online in the next 6 to 12 months, that we will continue to see these prices during this administration.
Right. So here in Michigan, we have a tremendous amount of tax on gas. The federal excise tax is the same as it's been, 18.4 cents, but then there's 31 cents on excise tax for fuel in Michigan. And we do something other states don't do. We put sales tax on gasoline. Not a lot of states do that. That's just a bonus for the folks here. Again, the taxes are what push this artificially high, right? We would have cheaper gas. $2.35, I'd take that today, that's for sure, as you have in Texas. But as we continue to dominate the world markets, this is good news for America, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is great news for America. Not only is it global dominance, it's just dominance in general, energy dominance. And when we have energy dominance, we also then have that national security. And again, I've said that here, that we have energy security, which does equal that national security. That is one thing that I do expect this president to do at some point as well, speaking of security, is fill up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That is something that we do need in times of actual crisis, not during a artificial time when we want to lower the price of oil during an election. It is needed in times of emergency. And so that is something else that a lot of us are expecting at some point to happen. But again, this administration understands that energy is at the foundation of our economy, and that the lower we get our energy prices across the board, the better our inflation prices are going to be, and more importantly, the more strong our economy will be.
Well, and clearly, inflation's at, I think, 2.7, 2.8% last time I looked. and coming down dramatically. It was at 9% in mid-222, mid-223. It was at 9%. So energy prices, huge impact. But here's another one of the problems. Electric prices continue to get jacked up on folks because of bad policies, as far as I'm concerned. We need more natural gas to control the price of electricity. We need more energy from America because we have the natural resources. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Natural gas can be a 100-year bridge energy source as we transition to something else, if we wanted to call 100 years a transition. We do have the means. We do not have the capability right now to actually transport that natural gas across America to provide that abundant, reliable, and affordable
So what do we
energy
need?
to all Americans.
What do we need to do that? Pipelines?
That's correct. We'll need the pipelines, and this is where the infrastructure comes in, and where we've been talking about that Trump is also really saying when drill, baby, drill is build, baby, build. He is working with states like Wyoming and Texas to add more pipelines to get this natural gas. You look at in West Texas, we flare that natural gas right now because the price is so low for natural gas that's not even worth selling it. And we don't even have the pipelines also to ship it all out of West Texas. So if we can not only get the pipelines and infrastructure built across America, but then get it at these ports and these hubs here across the edges of America, so we can then send it and continue to send it to our allies in Europe, as we know that Europe is getting ready to drop another percentage of Russian natural gas to hinder their economy, and they're going to be buying it from us. So we need to be the world supplier of natural gas, not only here for America, but for the rest of the world. And then that just goes into the other topic we're just talking about, which is global energy dominance here in America.
Well, there you go. You know, I looked this up because I needed an answer for myself. A 20% rise in oil prices would have a full 1-point increase on inflation. Just think about that. You know, when oil prices go up, inflation goes up, and when they come down, inflation comes down. RT, always appreciate you being here. I hope that America continues to be the world leader and dominator when it comes to energy. It's important to all of us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Truly appreciate it. We have it in spades around here. For folks in Michigan, you want the best water possible, Wolverine Water Systems. You want pure water. If your water's staining your shower, your clothes aren't as clean as you like them to be, you don't feel like the soap's working as well. Maybe it's your water. Do you got a bad smell in the water? WolverineWaterSystems.com. WolverineWaterSystems.com can get you the best, purest water you've ever had. Michigan-made, Michigan company. Paul Mahaney and his team doing the best for you every single day at WolverineWaterSystems.com. Check them out for the best water you can find all over the state of Michigan. I'll be right back after this. As we talked about from the top of the program today, the Democrats, man, they are agitated. The natives are restless. They are sharpening their pitchforks. They've got the long knives out for Chuck Schumer and others, especially the 8 folks that said, let's reopen the government after 40 days and 40 nights of failure. Join me now, my good friend, Liz Peek, Fox News contributor. Liz, good to have you back on the program.
Hey, lots to talk about.
Man, are they furious. I haven't had this much fun reading social media since the day after the election in November. I'm telling you. They've got the long knives out. They want to eat their own, don't they?
Oh, they absolutely do. And in New York, you see it. Every New York Democratic official is now facing a primary from the far left. Kathy Hochul is acting like a complete idiot. She endorsed Zohran Mamdani, the fellow who won the race to become mayor of New York, an anti-Semite Democratic socialist. And Kathy Hochul kind of dithered about whether to endorse him, but then finally she did, but without extracting a promise that she in turn would be endorsed by Mamdani. And now she's being primaried by her lieutenant governor, who's to the left. And my guess is Mamdani will come out and support him. So Kathy Hochul could be a goner. I mean, it's like there are no grown-ups in the room anymore.
So let me ask you this.
And by the way, this isn't just New York. I mean, welcome to the very shifting sands of the Democratic Party, which is now completely, it seems to me, enthralled to the far left.
Yeah. Now, I predicted long ago that AOC was going to run against Chuck Schumer regardless of this shutdown, regardless of any of this. And I believe she will primary Chuck Schumer. The question is, and I've had people from New York say, okay, she can win in New York City, but she can't win statewide. Is that true or not?
Well, I think it's up in the air. The question is, who is going to be backing Chuck Schumer?
Yes.
I mean, forgive me, but he's not the most, attractive candidate. What happened with the mayor's race? You had a tired, old, establishment, unpopular Democrat, Andrew Cuomo, as sort of the bulwark against the Democratic Socialists. I would sort of put Schumer in the same category. He's tired, he's angry, he isn't very popular. And after this capitulation, if you want to call it that, on reopening the government, failing to keep his group in control in the Senate, I think he's lost ground with probably everybody. So, I think he could lose a statewide primary quite easily.
All right, so here's my warning.
There, Steve.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think the money's on the left, the energy is on the left, and the turnout. It's a little bit like the Tea Party days. Who really got the Tea? I mean, the Tea Party was composed of people who were really, really agitated about the bailouts. It's anger, isn't it, that drives people to the polls. And people on the left just hate Donald Trump.
They do.
And so it is that hatred and that anger that is driving their turnout and their funding.
But here's my warning for Republicans. Affordability is the word. It's what got Mamdani elected. It's also what got Donald Trump elected. I can tell you right now, I'm watching Rasmussen and Mark Mitchell. The support from Gen Z has gone from the mid-50s to the mid-30s. These people want answers. And the problem is, Liz, the danger that the Republicans face is if you don't come up with some answers, get things under control, make rent affordable, make food affordable, make it so you could buy a house before you're 40 years old. Republicans are going to pay the same price. The uniparty is what's getting destroyed here, I think. These young Americans, 18 to 30 to 35, somewhere in there, they're not impressed with either side at this point, are they?
No, and they're flexible. I mean, most of them register as independents, and they will go with the wind. I mean, as you say, they lined up behind Donald Trump because he was an outsider. And in fairness, he promised to bring prices down. And that was a mistake because what he has done is bring inflation down, but he's not going to, and nor is anyone else actually going to bring prices down. Mind you, gasoline prices are down, and of course, egg prices are down, and some of the things that were outlandishly expensive when he took office. But you don't, it is almost never the case that you bring prices down. I do think, Steve, that if there were a intelligent program rolled out by Republicans on housing that could really boot up building of new houses and the affordability of existing houses, I think that would make a big difference, because that is you cited that you can't buy a house until you're well past the date when normally people want to buy houses. This is a crisis, and frankly, it's probably the residue of the housing crisis that many years ago, but nonetheless, it has to be fixed. And I'm hoping that Jay Powell feels pressure to lower interest rates, mainly because of housing, because otherwise, I agree with you, Republicans are going to get squashed.
Yeah, they're going to get slaughtered. I do like the idea of taking the money away from the insurance companies through subsidies. The Obamacare Act, Affordable Care Act, failed miserably by design. If Donald Trump can advance an idea where you have health savings accounts and people can be in charge of their own health care and save money, and insurance companies actually have to compete against each other for providing policies, that could be a big winner.
I totally agree. And you remember, one of the reasons Obamacare failed is that when it was passed, Republicans had some ideas like allowing insurance companies to compete across state lines that Democrats said, oh, yeah, once it's passed, we'll look into some of those things. Price transparency from hospitals, tort reform, all those kinds of things. They never did, of course. So, in fact, Obamacare was doomed from the start. And when they took away the individual mandate in 2018, then it was completely finished. And Democrats have basically been papering over the failure of Obamacare by allowing ever more generous subsidies. And now, and by the way, it's all Democrat votes. Only Democrats voted for Obamacare. Only Democrats voted for the subsidies and the bill that now is having them expire. So putting this on Republicans is ridiculous. However, nobody really cares about the blame game. What they're going to care about, by the way, is the fact that for the 7% of Americans on Obamacare, they're looking at very, very big premium spikes. And I don't think
100%.
I don't think either Republicans or Democrats are going to want that to happen.
They could all pay the price, all the old tired politicians. But Liz Peek, always a great conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
There you have it. Republicans, don't celebrate too long. You'll pay a price. All right, let's get Brock Palmbush in the room with sports.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The latest college football playoff rankings were released last night, and no change in the top 5 from last week. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia, in that order, make up the top 5. There were 2 games in college football last night, both in the Mid-American Conference. Kent State outlasted Akron in overtime 42-35, and Western Michigan squeaked out a 17-13 victory over Ohio. 6 games in the NBA last night. Winners included New York, Toronto, Utah, and Oklahoma City. In the NHL, there were 9 games on the schedule. Winners included Washington, Boston, St. Louis, and Winnipeg. In men's college basketball, 4th-ranked Duke, 5th-ranked Arizona, and 6th-ranked Michigan all won. In women's college basketball, 2nd-ranked South Carolina, 10th-ranked North Carolina State, and 20th-ranked Oklahoma State were all victorious. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. I've got some crazy footage now of this giant bridge in China that had been proclaimed as this remarkable engineering masterpiece. Well, there it is, for those of you on the video streams, collapsing into the river. 758 meters across. It completely collapsed into the river, imploded. I mean, it looks like the World Trade Center coming down. It's what it looks like. It's horrific. So I guess things aren't all rainbows and unicorns in China, now are they? No is your answer. Time for America to step up. Be proud of who we are, what we build. Greatest country ever. The communist model doesn't always work. China does some great things, apparently. The bridge here, clearly not one of them. Clearly not one of them. All right, there's going to be a march in Dearborn, apparently, this coming Tuesday of Christians and a man running for governor who says he wants to bring attention to what's happening in Dearborn and that he's not afraid to go anywhere, to any American city, to any city in Michigan. Is it going to be much? I don't know. We're going to have him on the program here this week. We'll talk to him, Anthony Hudson. And we'll keep coverage of that on MichiganNewsSource.com. That's my news company. You should check it out. Michigan News Source. News Source, your place for reliable, honest news. I'll be back. There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And welcome to another big hour here on the program as we light the fuse to set off this hour of freedom, protecting America's future, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom as we do every single day. Who do you want in your foxhole? May have never been more important than it is now. Here are the three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, a Republican candidate for governor is calling for a march in Dearborn on Tuesday to show that he's not afraid to go anywhere in this country. We'll see what that's about. Number two, cold weather and hot rates. Dana Nessler objects to consumers' latest gas hike. Yeah, she doesn't like it a bit. And number three, a group, and by the way, every one of these stories comes to you from MichiganNewsSource.com. Number three is a group wants to put up photo ID requirements to vote in 2026. I agree with that. I need an ID for everything. The idea that somehow minorities are somehow infringed and can't get an ID is nonsense. You know it, so do I, so does everybody. You want to drive a car, you need an ID. You want to buy a beer, you need an ID. You want to go into a football game or buy a ticket for the football game, you need an ID. It's not racist. It's not anything. It's common sense. You use your ID for everything to survive these days. So much, in fact, that the government wants to give you digital ID. Well, if that's the case, then you need an ID to vote. Pretty simple stuff. A group is promoting a ballot proposal that would require a photo ID to vote, force the Secretary of State to clean up voter rolls so non-citizens don't slip through the cracks, and embed in the state constitution that only American citizens can cast ballots. Americans for Citizen Voting, gathering signatures now so that it can put its proposal before the voters. Americans for Citizen Voting said it has paid and volunteer help collecting signatures and is halfway to its goal of having the proposal on the ballot in 2026. Halfway there. A proposed amendment to the state constitution needs 446,198 signatures to get on the ballot. Over 80% of the people support the need to use government-issued photo ID to vote, says Senator Ruth Johnson of Holly. She's the former Secretary of State, by the way. She made that statement to Michigan News Source, my news company. Only citizens are eligible to vote in our election we know of. Of a dozen cases last year where non-citizens cast ballots. We need to plug those holes. Citizens, American for Citizens Voting, working on 9 other states to get similar ballot measures put through as well. What do you think? Should citizens be the only ones allowed to vote? I think I know how you feel, but sure, send me an email, stevegruber.com. Send me an email. Tell me what you think about that. Okay? It's really important that we talk about this, and we will get this put together. All right, so healthcare, affordability. It's been the theme through the shutdown. It's been the theme for this program for the past many days, and affordability is going to be, it's going to be the crux of the election in 2026 and 2028 and maybe beyond. People like Mamdani won because people feel like they can't afford to pay their bills. They can't afford to get ahead no matter how hard they work. So while Republicans celebrate the caving of 8 Democrat senators to give the government a chance to reopen, which should happen today. That vote is coming in the House later today. It should be voted on to reopen the government. I expect that to happen. But don't celebrate too long, Republicans. Don't celebrate too long, you that call yourselves conservatives. The issues are still there, and you can certainly be blamed like anybody else. If you're in office and prices are not getting better and things remain expensive and houses remain out of reach, you will become the target. The hunter will become the hunted, as they say. Don't kid yourself. Britt Hume summed it up. On health care, here's the idea. You take the money away from the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and give that money straight to the American people into health savings accounts. That's the plan put forward by President Trump. Republican lawmakers say they'll have a plan ready, a bill ready, legislation ready by December to do that. Britt Hume, here's what he says about it.
If we cannot, as a nation, decide not to continue a subsidy that was imposed or was enacted during a national health emergency and was designed to be temporary, and that all the Democrats voted to have be temporary, if we can't let that expire, what hope do we ever have of getting government spending under control?
None. We have no chance of getting government spending under control, which pushes inflation. I'm going to have some Milton Friedman bites for you tomorrow as the professor, Milton Friedman, the late, great Milton Friedman, will share some of his thoughts, brilliant thoughts, about capitalism and inflation and everything else tomorrow on the program. You don't want to miss that. We'll be taking you to class tomorrow. Meanwhile, Kansas Senator Dr. I emphasize that, Roger Marshall says the Republican plan for health care will be here by December. He says it's a good idea and a good conversation. I agree. Listen.
Let's take that $150 billion we're giving insurance companies, give about a third of that back to patients, to consumers, to set up their own health care savings accounts. Beyond that, there's work to be done with roll back the PBMs when it comes to prescription drug prices. Trump RX is going to be something else that'll work. We can expand access to association health care plans, to ministry plans as well. We want to set up high-risk pools, reinsurance pools in every state as well. So there's a lot of things we can do. These are not new concepts. Speaker Johnson and I have been working on this together for years.
So, well, you've been working on it for years, but is there like a comprehensive plan that people could look at and decide whether or not they think it's something that Republicans should pass?
We'll have something within that when we'll have a side-by-side bill when they come out, when they get their vote on Obamacare subsidies, giving more.
You're going to have a health care bill by the second week of December?
We will. We've been working on this very, very hard for several years. And again, Speaker Johnson and I have done one several years ago, but we'll get a new one, getting it together. We're bringing the pieces together just like I discussed. Again, taking $150 billion rather than giving it to big insurance companies. Let's empower patients, make them consumers again.
Make them consumers again. Make the free market work for people. I think that's a very good idea. Very good idea. Now, back to the cost of natural gas. Dana Nessel is angry, and she's right about this. Winter has barely settled in. Man, it got cold. It was 18 degrees the other morning here just a couple of days ago. And I'm like, whoa! Coldest weather across North America in something like 35 years. From Minnesota to Mobile, Alabama, and all points in between, setting record low temperatures. Winter barely settled in, and Michigan's heating bills climbing again. Dana Nessel says, consumers' energy, slow your roll. Nessel objecting to consumers' plan to raise natural gas rates again next month, arguing the utility is moving ahead with another increase barely weeks after the last one was approved. Natural gas production is up in this country. Consumers filed its required notice with the Michigan Public Service Commission October the 16th, less than 1 month after regulators signed off on a $157.5 million gas rate increase. Stop it. We cannot keep allowing these utilities to treat these hikes as business as usual while their customers struggle to pay the bills. They must be held accountable as they continue seeking increases, says Dana Nessel. Listen to me, I agree. And I'm going to say it out loud. I agree with Dana Nessel. She's right about this. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, welcome back to it. Glad to have you on board as we continue the conversation. Yes, sir. Next up, a remarkable individual. Accomplishments too many to list here today because it would take the rest of the program. He's a travel writer, author, speaker, storyteller, and just an incredible human being. Ron Rademacher is his name, everybody. He wrote Michigan Backroads, a number of issues. There he is, everybody. Look at his smiling Ron Rademacher. Ron, how are you?
Steve,
how you like that? Is that good? Does that
great?
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Right,
good intro.
checking.
Good intro. You're coming along. We're dragging you along. You're getting better every week.
Well, thank you for that.
So, any update on our curling expedition? Have you got that set up yet?
I'm all in. I mean, I've got people. We'll have cheering people in the crowd. Anthony, you in?
I'll go curling.
Absolutely.
If we get a date, I can look into
I guess
it.
You need a date. Bring your date.
Yeah.
What do you mean you need a date? What's he talking about?
Could you have Anthony reserve the facility for us so we can all make our plans?
How does it work, Ron? We'll have to do that off air so we get that all taken care of. Yes, we're going curling this year. Absolutely. I mentioned to some other people who said, I want to do that. I want to do that. Everybody wants to do that.
Hey, I was the one who suggested that last week, Steve.
Oh, and now Brock Palmbush wants to go.
Brock's out.
You see?
No, Brock can't go.
For years.
Why not?
I know. Anyhow. All right, let's talk about what's out there for entertaining me besides curling this week, Ron.
Well, entertaining you, we'll start with the beer week in Traverse City. You know, what's better than that? Breweries all over town are waiting for you to show up.
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up. There
Bottoms
you go.
up. There you go. Okay.
You got that going on. And the other one that I wish I could be there for this, and I can't get up there. We're going in another direction. But up in Calumet, it's Bigfoot Fest. And along with the other things where you wear big feet, you put them on, they have big feet races. They also have a Bigfoot calling contest.
All right.
Now, I know that you have some hog calling experience back in the day. Yeah, and I would love to hear you give voice, up there in Calumet, calling in them Bigfoots. But I can't be there. But if anybody is going to be there, if they could send us a video,
we'll take it. Yeah. Yeah, we'll post the video all over my social media website. Send us the video, we'll do it. I guarantee you, we will.
Absolutely. Especially if a couple of big feet come running out of the forest there.
Sure.
So that's going on. Since we're off in the wilderness, I got to talk to you about what's going on at Robinette's. I don't know if you've ever been out there. I've just started talking with these folks. They have an Apple House over on the west or east side of Grand Rapids. And they are having a bicycle race in case you'd like to join in. And you can you get on this, or excuse me, it's not a bicycle race. You're going to run. And it's 600 people have signed up so far, and you take off. And when you get down a little bit, you get to split off. You can either take the easy way out, or you can take the rugged way out.
And boy, with all this snow and ice and moisture, it's going to be one sloppy mess if it's 40 degrees, isn't it?
It should be really, really cool. But if you're tempted to take the short course, you just got to understand that's the one that goes over hill and over dale to grandmother's house. You go. So,
of course it does.
That should be fun.
A
little more traditional.
To me, it sounds like a shortcut to the ER, but a lot of things do these days. I'm just saying that.
And it doesn't say anything here, but it is an apple joint, so so there probably will be cider and other beverages, so you can keep hydrated out there on the trail.
Well, that's important. And hydration is the key to success.
Absolutely, it's called the Dirty Duel Trail Race, and appropriately so. Hey, listen, we're still honoring our veterans around the state, and I have not had a chance to attend this one, but down at the Alger House in Grosse Pointe, they are having an event called Bootlegger's Delight. And it's a war memorial speakeasy, and that's going on all week. So if you're down in the Grosse Pointe area,
it'd be a World War I memorial then for a speakeasy for a prohibition type thing.
I think that veterans from all theaters of war are invited, but yes, probably themed for World War I.
All right,
if you're down there too, by the way, Lake Orion out at Canterbury Village is having their tree lighting, Steve. It's the 14th of November. They're going to light up the tree. I mean, we haven't even had Thanksgiving yet, but we're lighting up the tree down there, and Fox Theater next right is doing a performance of A Christmas Story.
And
a classic.
you got it all. So where were we walking into? Oh, Home Depot over the weekend. You know, and it was, I don't know, last weekend. They're putting out the Christmas decorations. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we have a pool here in the office that before January 1st, we will see Valentine's Day and Easter stuff going up at Walmart.
Well, we were thinking about putting a pool in this office, but we couldn't figure out how the diving board would work. So we had some concerns.
It's always something. Hey, there's some engineers looking for a job over in China.
Clearly. We rolled that tape earlier. That bridge came down like it was built of sand.
Unbelievable.
Yikes.
Bob the Turtle and I are on the world tour. We'll be in Mason this weekend.
Really?
At the county fairgrounds for an arts and crafts fair there with lots of Christmas decorations.
But Ron,
Steve,
Saturday is a national holiday. I just got a phone call from a guy, by the way. This could break my heart in the end. I just got a phone call here. I listened to the messages before you came on that he arrowed a big buck just near my property, not too far from here, last night. Says it traveled onto my property, and will I be so kind as to help him find it?
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, yes, I will. But gosh darn it hurts my feelings because I know what these deer look like. We have better deer in Michigan today than we have ever had my entire life. The first deer I ever shot in Michigan was a trophy 6-point. It was like this big in 1979.
Everybody's getting great-looking bucks, and yes, Saturday is a high holy day.
Yes.
And so everybody will be out there. But yeah, all the guys I know they're sending great pictures of great racks, just epic rack.
Yeah, and deer too, which we appreciate, Ron. Thank you very much. Ron Rademacher. You can find him on MichiganBackroads.com. You can also find him on Michigan News Source, my news company, as he gives great stories, tips, and ideas for things to do in Michigan, which there are too many to list here today. Ron, I appreciate you as always.
Steve, have a good hunt. We'll talk to you.
There you go. God bless America. So I'm going to go help this guy find this giant buck that he arrowed and probably on my property. Yeah, that's a tear in my eye. Hold on. I'll be right back. Kelly Ayotte is the governor of New Hampshire. Was a senator there for a term and then got beat by Gene Shaheen, I guess, or Hassan, one of the two, doesn't matter. Anyhow, Kelly Ayotte is a Republican governor of New Hampshire, and a pretty good one, I might add. In fact, she's wasted no time in the wake of the election of Mamdani to recruit businesses and people to New Hampshire. Hey, come on down, she says. New York City business owners, Mamdani got you down? Come on up to New Hampshire for no communism, less red tape, and less taxes. New Hampshire has a lot to offer anyone who's looking to leave NYC ahead of the Mamdani regime. We are the safest state in the nation, the best for economic opportunity, and we have some of the lowest taxes anywhere. Whether you own a business or just want to keep more of your hard-earned money, come on up to the Granite State. We'd love to have you. Wow, nice sales pitch, Governor. Well done. Well done. Kelly Ayotte, Governor. I think we need that kind of governor around here. Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity? And cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam called house stealing. That's what the FBI calls it. House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, that's not going to work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. They're after your equity in your home. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title out of your home into their name using a document they filed at the county and then take out loans or even sell it behind your back. It's happened. We talk about it here. The scariest part, you won't find out until it's over and the collection and foreclosure notices start showing up in your mailbox. But by then, the damage has been done. The best way to protect your equity is triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection is 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid if the worst happens, restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. You can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not a victim already. Use the promo code Gruber, and this is how you get it done. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber, to make sure the title is still in your name and you're protected. They'll spend $1 million to restore your title if it gets damaged or somebody tries to steal your home. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. Be safe and sleep well. All right? And a free title history report as well. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. I'll be right back. All right. Continuing now, what a great day it's been so far. Just tremendous guests here today. Talking about affordability and all the different things, but there's so much to cover any single day that I don't think that we even scratch the surface oftentimes. It's too bad because there's so much to cover. And one of the things we're going to cover today is when education becomes ideology. Michigan State University, the center of another controversy when it comes to all of this indoctrination, I guess is the way I'll put it. Tim Manella is the senior fellow at the Goldwater Institute. He joins me now. Tim, thank you for being here.
Hi, Steve. Great to be here.
All right, so curriculum policy. Look, both of my parents graduated from Michigan State. One of my brothers attended that university for a period of time before graduating elsewhere. So I'm quite familiar with it. I mean, if I had a good arm in a baseball, I might be able to hit it from here. But what we need to hit on are curriculum issues. What's going on?
So Michigan State, I think, is the latest where journalists have uncovered the fact that students are being forced to take courses indoctrinating them in DEI and some of the most left-wing concepts imaginable. And like you said, the latest is Michigan State, where education majors, these are people who are seeking to teach future generations in the state of Michigan and elsewhere, are being forced to take a course called Social Foundations of Justice and Equity in Education. And it is chock full of race-obsessed, left-wing indoctrination. And this is what is required for future teachers.
So let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. My mother was a school teacher who graduated from Michigan State University with a master's degree in education before any of this stuff happened. When men were still men and women were still women, a lot of nonsense wasn't here for us at that point. But you're saying Social Foundations of Justice and Equity, it's a required class, which means kids that are attending, they have to pay good, hard-earned money at a rate that's higher than it's ever been because institutions of higher learning are wildly expensive for what you get in return. So they're required to pay to take this course, and they can't graduate in education without it?
That's correct. It is one of the required courses that students have to take.
And what do they learn?
So one of the only required book for the course is by a left-wing professor named Bettina Love. And this book is a call for students, for teachers to turn their classrooms into factories to create social justice warriors. Throughout this book, she talks about the need for something called abolitionist education, which is about using the classroom as a space to transform society in a very left-wing direction. And this is what is, like you said, being forced on students. This is what their tuition dollars are being spent on in order for them to progress the institution and start their careers. And this is something that where I work, the Goldwater Institute is fighting against, that we should not be forcing any student in a field like education to progress through these indoctrination sessions just to graduate.
All right. How do we stop this? I mean, this, unfortunately, Tim, this is not a new story. This is a story that regardless of federal law, regardless of state law, regardless of the laws in different states, those on the left that are hell-bent on indoctrination, rename things, try to go around the edge, come through the back door, whatever they can do to continue to perpetuate this garbage. And it is garbage. What if there was a class that required people to teach the greatness of America? Their heads would explode. Their hair would catch fire. Am I wrong?
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think a very important step to take is to craft effective policy at the state level. And this is our Freedom from Indoctrination Act that the Goldwater Institute has put out, which puts into very clear terms that you can't require students to take this nonsense if they just want to get their degrees. And furthermore, another part of this policy says you've got to have courses in your general education program that instruct students on the basic fundamental principles of our constitutional republic. That students have to learn about the Constitution. They have to learn about the Federalist Papers. They have to learn about the principles that undergird our constitutional framework, like freedom of speech and separation of powers. And I think those two things together, preventing the mandatory DEI that isn't really education, it's indoctrination, and requiring real education in our constitutional system, that would go a long way towards correcting these issues that we see across the country.
Yeah. So it's a dogfight, isn't it? It doesn't matter what Donald Trump signs, they ignore it. It doesn't matter what some states put forth, they ignore it. How do we make people accountable and put some real teeth into these laws to say, look, stop it. Teach kids to read, write, arithmetic, teach American history. It can be balanced. Yeah, we can talk about slavery. We can talk about slave ships. We can also talk about Abraham Lincoln ending slavery. We can talk about the Constitution bringing the international slave trade to an end in America in 1808. Nobody ever teaches that. It's in the Constitution of the United States of America. 1808 was the end of it. And they had a chance to end slavery then, but Southern Democrats refused. Yeah, we can do all of these things, can't we? Can't we have an honest conversation without all this indoctrination?
Well, absolutely. And that's what I'm advocating for across the country, that what you're pointing to, I think, shows the need for this policy that I talked about, the Freedom from Indoctrination Act, but also the fact that at our universities, we need departments and schools and institutes that specifically focus on American history and our constitutional heritage. And that's what we see in places like Arizona already, at Arizona State, the School for Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership. There are other schools across the country in Florida and North Carolina. These are needed everywhere. We need scholars that are focused on teaching and doing scholarship on America and presenting America in a balanced light, like you said, that focuses on our failings, but also focuses on our great successes.
Gotcha. It's time to follow through on this. I agree with you on everything you've said here, Tim. In Michigan State University, just the latest, to continue to push, to peddle this nonsense. Thank you for being here, and we wish you if somebody wants to find out more about the Goldwater Institute, where would you send them?
You can head to goldwaterinstitute.org, and let me just send your audience to our Dismantling DEI podcast, which we're very excited about, where you can find on any platform where you get your podcasts.
Yeah, there you go. Tim, greatly appreciate Tim Minella, the Goldwater Institute, putting a spotlight on things that matter. Come back anytime with your next big story. We'll have you right back.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
Tim, thank you very much. Tim Minella from the Goldwater Institute. Look, just teach the kids how to think. Don't indoctrinate them. Don't feed them this garbage. Just teach them how to think, please. Is that too much to ask anymore in 2025? Ask the son of a school teacher, the grandson of another school teacher. Is it too much to ask? When we come back, Ivy's going to be here. That's not too much to ask. That's a given. Best part of the program coming up.
left, right.
All right, welcome back to the best part of the program. Ivy's like, what are you so interested in your phone? Well, she was, getting all dolled up, so she missed the fact that a bow hunter had a deer crossroad onto our property after he put an arrow in it. That happens during hunting season. He was very kind and called and said, can I have permission to go on your property? Of course, we'll figure it out after the show's over. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciate people that just don't go tromping onto your property. We hate that, especially during deer season. You and I both hunt. Mm-hmm. We're both respectful of property lines. We always clean up after ourselves. Etiquette matters, doesn't it?
It does, definitely.
Yeah.
My question is, how did he know it was your property, and how did he get your phone number?
That I don't know, because I don't recognize the name, but,
Oh, well.
Well, look, there's not people in the neighborhood.
I mean, I appreciate it. I'm just, that sparks my curiosity.
Maybe he's a whitetail stalker.
Maybe.
I doubt it, but that's not.
I actually saw a decent
whitetail stalker. No, that's.
People lose their minds when they see big deer. It's
Oh my
funny.
gosh, have we said this for years? Big deer turn grown men into children and potentially criminals every year. Stop it. It's a deer, And another note here, by the way, I talked to another close friend of mine. I won't tell his name, who fell about 25 feet down through a white pine, coming out of a tree stand, broke 10 ribs. 10. But lived.
Well, yeah, you need to have a
fortunately.
safety strap and make sure that you are really cautious when getting into those.
And getting out. He stepped on a
tree
dead
stands.
branch too far out on a white pine tree. It broke. Down he went. He said he
Always
went down
have what, 3 points of contact?
what's that called? Plinko? Where you plink, ding, ding, ding. He said that's what it was like. Anyhow, he lived, but he was hospitalized in intensive care in Clare and then Midland and then in rehab for another several. He's been in the hospital for like 12 days. He just got out yesterday. So.
Yeah, and I think that he said that there were multiple people who had fallen out of tree stands, like 5 or 6.
Be careful, people. I understand. It's a deer. It's not worth dying for.
Losing
right?
your life
Look,
over.
Ivy and I have hunted big stuff in a lot of places. Very fortunate and blessed to do that. I've not seen a deer to this day that is worth dying for. I'll just say it that way.
In
all right?
tree stands and very high tree stands. One of our buddies in Indiana put it up a mile up into a tree. I'm like,
yeah, and then that in Indiana, it wasn't even solid. It was like, oh my God, why'd you do that, Kiefer? He's like, well, that way nobody that I don't like sits in my tree stands. I'm like, do you not like us? I mean, come on. It was crazy. It was like we had nosebleeds. We were so far in the air.
And for those of you who don't know, Steve did outdoor television for many years, traveled all over the world, and did that. Has a lot of incredible stories. And I was blessed to be part of that for a few years. Actually taught me how to do videography, and so I traveled along with him and did a lot of the video.
We saw some great places together doing that.
We've seen some incredible places, incredible deer.
Our honeymoon was in Alaska for a moose hunt.
Our honeymoon
Who
was in
does that?
Alaska.
We did.
We did. I would do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a cool experience for sure, and I think that you've been blessed with a lot of really incredible experiences. So that's
It's
cool.
that time of the year, though. It is. It's so in Michigan, Saturday is big. It doesn't fall on a Saturday, but every few years, here it is, a Saturday gun opener. It'll be like Christmas Day to a lot of folks. Basically, a statewide holiday.
Yeah, it's a state holiday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we have much time to get to this.
Couple minutes.
So I'm not going to actually play the soundbite, but there was a 12-year-old young lady that was arrested in D.C. for a slew of criminal activities and robberies.
12
years old. And you just wonder, where are her parents? Why is she out?
What kind of crimes? Robberies? Armed robberies?
I don't think it was armed.
Just stealing
robberies.
stuff.
Just stealing stuff, and a lot of different ones. A slew, 5 or 6 different robberies in the area. And where are the parents? Why is this
happening?
Child, out there having
she's feral
desire to go and perform these robberies, but it just makes me so sad, that these children, this particular one, if she's out, where is she not in school? Where's her supervision? Does she not have any, does she feel that hopeless that she has to go find and rob different places? That just makes me a very sad story to
It is a terrible
run across.
story, yeah. You have to wonder. I mean, We saw in D.C., was it a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, the Uber driver that was murdered by a couple of kids who were like 13 and 14, murdered.
Yeah.
It's just like,
So
seriously,
sad.
where are the parents? Where is the supervision? What is going
Well, where's
on?
the hope too? And because if you are in this point of your life that you're so young and you have no hope that you were to murder someone,
Or have no respect of life at all.
No respect of life either. But I think really probably down in the core of things, it's that they have no hope for the future, no hope for anything. And so why would they have sanctity for life if they have no encouragement for future life? And so that just makes me very sad to hear those kinds of stories for sure.
Agreed. I completely agree with you.
You know, just like, you know, we have a son not too distant of that age. So you just wonder, like, you know.
Yeah, if he got caught
one
stealing.
One wrong friend.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talk about that. People do as you raise kids, you know. All right. Who's
Who
that
are their
kid?
friends?
That kid?
I want to know them. I want to meet them. I want to
know
meet their parents.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to go hang out with them without me knowing their parents first. No, you're not going to hang out with them without me meeting them first.
We said no to them hanging out here at our house because we were away on Saturday at a very wonderful event up in Owasso, Michigan. And we say, can I hang out with these guys? Nope. No, not while we're not home. No, I like my house intact. Thank you very much.
Right.
And, you know.
So I do have a like a public service announcement really quickly. I don't know if you've seen this story, but Jeep tells owners to stop charging plug-in hybrid SUVs immediately because of serious fire risk concerns.
Oh, great.
So the recall is for certain 2020 to 2025 Jeep Wrangler 4xe models.
Oh, boy.
So look this up, and if you have one of these vehicles, make sure that you get that checked right away because you don't want to lose your house.
You know what's weird about that?
For a charging vehicle.
I've parked my vehicles for years in the garage, in the driveway. They never spontaneously caught on fire. And if the gas tank was full when I went to bed, it was full when I got up in the morning. It's weird. Ivy, thank you for. Sorry, we'll get to your sound tomorrow about the 12-year-old. Sorry
That's
about
all right.
that.
No
Anyhow,
worries.
love you. All right, we'll take a break and be right back. You know, Ivy's story there about the Jeep recall for the Wranglers, the 4XE 2020 through 2025, the hybrid Jeep, apparently a fire issue. That goes hand in hand with several other stories recently. General Motors saying, you know what, we're going to go back and build more gas and diesel vehicles, not go all EV by 2035, which is what they had told us years ago. And I said, if they do that, you will go broke. You will go bankrupt, GM, if you do that. I was right. Ford Motor Company announcing here a couple of days ago that they're considering, and so this is a precursor, they are considering discontinuing the Lightning, which is the all-electric F-150, which means that has been a failure. You see, when your business plan, or whatever your plan is, relies solely on government money, that's no plan at all. That's not a business plan, not for EVs and not for healthcare either. If government subsidies are the only way you can get there, it's not going to work. Let the private let the private markets decide. Let capitalism decide what's going to work and work best. You'll end up with cleaner vehicles that are more reliable and do better. I mean, that's what happened to American car makers in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. Japan was whooping us with quality, and so we had all sorts of problems. We had the Pacer, for God's sake. We had the K car. Embarrassments of American motoring. But since that time, the vehicles built here are terrific, but we don't buy electric. And Tesla, to be honest with you, I think the Tesla is quite a vehicle. I've ridden him a number of times with Uber. The technology, the screen in a Tesla is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Anyhow, that's it for today. We're going to call good. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith, my friends. God bless America. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, only you can save America, or we could do it together if you'd prefer. Work harder. Be better. We'll talk soon.